I did go to the theaters with a friend who had read all the books.
Yeah.
Isn't that so annoying?
I thought it would be. I thought it would be. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
I remember seeing like Deathly Hallows or something like when Harry Potter came out with like a girl I was dating at the time, and she was like a big fan of the books, and like the whole time in the theater.
Are you okay?
The whole time she's like, "That's exactly how I pictured it." This part is wrong. They just messed that up. Oh my
I'm
God.
just laughing.
In the book, it's so much better.
That
In the book,
would be
it's so much better.
100%.
What is this, episode 36? And it's going to be about Dune, the 2021 movie. So I personally know what you guys think, kind of. I don't know what Falin thinks, and I've been waiting even since last podcast episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Votary podcast. We're going to talk about Dune, the movie that just came out this year, 2021, directed by Denis Villeneuve, and starring Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya. It was released to critical acclaim, and it was already approved for Dune Part 2. Wow. Denny is very excited, and we're very excited to see it when it comes out in 2023. Everybody buckle up, because this is going to be a great episode.
We should open every
episode. I like that. Thank you.
Do we still do intros or no?
I thought I did one, but Jamin's was way better.
No, I mean like personal intros.
Oh, personal intros. We kind of forgot about that. So, yeah. Yep, I'm Mike.
I'm Luke.
I'm Falin.
I'm Jamin.
And we are
Votary.
The dream team.
We're part of Votary, at least.
Falin, what did you think of Dune? Because I'm really curious.
Me personally, I thought it was okay. I know a lot of people liked it. That's fine with me. But I thought it was okay. I was a little disappointed about the lack of hand-to-hand combat. There was a lot of combat. There was a lot of war, a lot of explosions. I thought that was cool. But I just have a real love for hand-to-hand combat, and there wasn't a lot in there. And the hand-to-hand combat that was in there, I was like, this is not really that great.
That's interesting. That's feedback I haven't heard yet about the movie.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Lack of hand-to-hand combat. I actually wasn't expecting a whole lot of fighting, because a lot of people had told me, "Oh, I read the book," or it's really not about the war. It's not like Star Wars and like action-packed. It's more like political, and so I was kind of wrapping my head around that before I saw it.
Well, there was a lot of action. I just thought, because they were setting up like this like ethereal, like desert people thing where Duncan Idaho goes in and like befriends the Fremen, and the Fremen are like loyal warriors, and he talks them up so much. So I'm thinking like there's going to be really cool combat going on. Like they train their people. They're ready to do some stuff. Yeah. You know? So
we didn't see much of the Fremen yet. I think that's going to come more in part 2.
That's what everyone says. Wait till part 2.
Yeah. That has been kind of the center of our discussion, or some of your qualms with the film, and then
you wanted to
some
say
of
qualms.
People's responses is like, well, just wait, like it's gonna.
Yeah.
So the question of whether it should stand alone by itself and be like its own really well executed story arc within that one episode, or whether it goes.
And it is a 2-parter, right? It's not a 3-parter. It's not
going
to be a trilogy.
3.
It's going to be a trilogy.
Oh,
I have not.
Book,
so have any of you read the book?
No, not at all.
And have any of you seen the original 1984? I think it is.
Not a chance.
Only clips. Right?
Okay, so I that's what I think the only, maybe there's one other David Lynch movie I haven't seen, I think, called Lucky. It's about an old man traveling across the country. But other than that, Dune is the only David Lynch movie I think I haven't seen. Because I heard in an interview he wasn't proud of it. He's like, I'm really proud of my career, except Dune. And I've heard mixed things about it, so I never bothered. Yeah. But now I really want to watch it. now that I've seen this one, and but anyway, so yeah, so we're coming in totally cold, like just this is the only,
Gracie's been reading it.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Nice.
did go to the theaters with a friend who had read all the books.
Yeah.
Isn't that so annoying?
I thought it would be. I thought it would be. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
I remember seeing like Deathly Hallows or something, like when Harry Potter came out with like a girl I was dating at the time, and she was like a big fan of the books, and like the whole time in the theater.
Are you okay?
The whole time she's like, "That's exactly how I pictured it." No, this part is wrong. They just messed that up. Oh my
I'm
God.
just laughing.
In the book, it's so much better.
That
In the book,
would
it's
be
so much better. It's so much better in the
100%
book.
me.
You,
If I
So
saw
was
that
it.
for
You
the
need to-
first time,
we shouldn't watch Lord of the Rings together. Well, actually, Elrond is really cool because he's
But-
That's
But
you,
I've-
Luke.
But I've read Lord of the Rings several times, so
Yeah.
it would be fun to discuss that. But if you see
Yeah.
a movie for the first time
Yeah.
and you haven't read the book,
That's
and the person you're
exactly how I
with,
pictured that in
that-
Twilight.
it's so much better in the book. It's so much better in the book. Some of the books are way better. Like,
But anyway,
Where's
Then why are you
Tom
watching the
Bombadil?
I came out of Dune and was expecting to ask him like, "What'd you think?" and him to be like, "Oh no, there's nothing like the books. No, they butchered this." But he was like, "No, I was happy with a lot of that. Like he thought they stayed true to like the story in a lot of ways, and he thought that like he understood like certain things that were maybe a little bit weirder and wouldn't translate to screen as well. He was like, I kind
Because
of
there are
agree
a
with
lot
some
of
of the
concepts that are like pretty complex
Mhm.
and nuanced and just weird too. It's like, how do you? I feel like that's been a conversation for a long time as technology has progressed. Is people will be like, oh yeah, it's great in a book, but like, how could you ever visualize that, on
Yeah.
screen? And I think that as visual effects have progressed, it's been easier and easier for
Yes.
people to like actually conceptualize like what something would look like in a sci-fi setting.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
they definitely captured the mood like super well, I think. I think the visuals were so stunning, and the whole mood of like the desert people and these other, what were the other people called that they were trying
goblins?
to take over the Fremen? No.
Oh.
The orcs?
The Arcanons?
Oh,
Yeah.
Uruk-hai.
What? What?
The Harkonnen,
The Harkonnens.
right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the big
Yes.
guy, the big guy in the black suit.
Yeah, that
Ewoks?
shot where
Taking
he's like
black suit babe bats.
levitating. Yes, he's like levitating.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
He
that
was
was so
creepy.
weird. Oh,
I was gonna
I
say,
love that.
That actor, what's his name?
Skarsgård, one of the Skarsgårds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
no,
awesome.
it's not Alexander.
He's great. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
Stellar.
When you first see him in that steam room, it's like, what is this thing? What is this person?
He looks like a
I don't know.
Cockroach.
When he's floating and there's the shot, the way that it was framed was like you would frame that if you wanted to do comedy, where it's like right from the side and he just comes into the frame. If something entering frame is funny, you know what I mean? And
That's
he's
not
coming
what
in.
happened.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's like approaching Oscar Isaac and he's floating.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
his
yes.
big
the
fat-
shot is across
Yeah.
the table
His
though.
big
You see him
fat
come up
gut
over the table first.
comes into frame
No,
Yes.
dude.
from left to right, and he's just
You
like,
don't even remember it right.
I remember it because I laughed. And he's just like,
David, you
like
said
floating
you
across.
saw it so long ago.
Yeah, how do you remember?
I don't
What did you
remember.
think of it? What did you think? What did you think of it? I already know, sort of, but what did you think, James?
I thought it was incredible. I thought it was a masterpiece.
We were talking
of
about ratings last time.
technical
Ooh.
expertise.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a really good.
Is this a like a high rating for you then?
This is very high rating. I thought it was
Put a number on
technically incredible, and it hit me emotionally in certain ways. I gave it. I'm pretty sure I gave it like a 10 or a
Whoa.
9.
Wow, that's high.
I can't remember, but
Well, if it's 10 out of 10, that's the ultimate. That's like
Is that your
like
favorite
this
movie?
is this is up there as some of your favorite movies then.
definitely.
Unless you crank it up to
Whoa.
11.
But I yeah, I don't know. That. But I haven't seen it again. I really wanted to watch it a second time to have a more formed opinion, and unfortunately, I've still only seen it once, so I only have that initial impression. But
Well, maybe we should all give our ratings before we
Yeah.
continue.
Well, I want to know what hit you emotionally,
Yes.
or should we come back to that?
Let's come back to it.
Okay. What would you, if you were to rate it out of 10?
Like a 5.5, 6 maybe.
All right.
That's my rating.
Okay.
I'd say 7.8.
7.8. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a classic IMDb
Yeah.
rating right there.
Yeah.
I always think of 7s when I think of IMDb, because everything's a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. I think about a 5, because I think there was enough that it would have been probably like a 3 or a 4 if it wasn't so beautiful. And they did a really good job with the world and with like creating something that feels like another world that's still like inspired by our world. And so it has enough visuals that I was like, oh, this is cool. It just, the characters didn't pull me in at all.
Yes, I agree
Which
with
made
that.
me really
This feels
sad.
so personally disrespected right now.
I know. I'm
Jamin,
sorry.
I'm gonna try to not, attack your.
No,
your
this is why I
favorite
didn't want to
movie.
do this podcast.
I'm gonna try to not attack your favorite movie.
It's okay. I've been getting over it for a month, so
We
at least I knew.
I
want
want to say, like, we couldn't wait for the podcast episode to talk about it, which is what we normally do, and we had like a heated discussion, and we had to like cool off. So
Yeah, it was
we all
Yeah.
watched Dune probably
hated it.
a month ago.
We legit we're pushing back our morning production meeting probably like a solid hour.
Yeah.
Just talking about this.
Yeah, and this is why I wanted Cody or Jed to be on here, just to have one other. Well, actually, Jed.
Luke liked it.
I'm with you, James.
Luke
No,
liked it.
you're just
Jed really liked it.
7's not good enough for
7.8. I'm like
pretty high.
right at.
Yeah,
the
you're
point of
like,
giving it an
it's
8.
not good enough for an 8. Like, not good enough for an 8. I'm just kidding.
If we're doing hard numbers or half
It-
numbers, it would be an 8 for you.
I would say I came out of it like that was dope. I really like that. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it has some soft
some weak
spots,
points.
some weak points.
All right.
But not enough to like make me think I didn't
Well,
enjoy
let's
it.
talk
I remembered why it hit me emotionally.
Great.
And I can give that little spiel. The big thing that I think was like most exciting for me, I wouldn't even be like necessarily the characters that were the most compelling to me about it. It was more so the feeling of getting dropped into a world, because I felt like for me, I've always loved this, like that concept of getting placed in this in a well-built world that feels real and like has rules. Since I was a kid, I always wanted to be put in those settings of like, this is something that someone else put all of this intentional work into, to where it actually works and it makes sense. And you get that with like Middle Earth. Like, you're dropped into this place and it's like so fantastical, but it still like follows like world rules of how it's built. And so that's what I felt like with Dune. I felt like it was the modern equivalent of what kids felt in the 70s when they watched Star Wars for the first time, where it was like, you're getting dropped into this world that is just so foreign and literally out of this world.
Yeah.
That it's like an experience that you couldn't have in any other way. And so that's why I thought it was so important for my experience to be able to watch it in the theater.
Yeah.
And I was like immersed in the sound and the visuals, and it's like larger than life. And if I had just watched that at home, I don't think I would have gotten that experience.
You know what's funny? Wait, Falin, did you watch it at home?
Yeah, I did.
So Cody was underwhelmed by it, so much so that he didn't even have much to say, he said, if he was going to be on the podcast today.
Yeah.
He watched it at home. I was highly disappointed by it. I watched it at home. I do think there's something about like you're saying, like the experience in the theater. It seems like maybe you're more apt to when you're spending money on something too. There's something about like for the first half of Tenet, I wanted to love it, even though like the whole time it was bad. But like I was still halfway through.
Yeah, me too.
Halfway through, I was like on the edge of my seat trying to get it, and it wasn't until my buddy Ben turns to me and he goes, Do you have any idea what's going on? That I like. Well, so this guy is like, and I realized, no, I don't. I don't really. I don't. I want to, and I'm not gonna make something up because I really didn't. And so there's something about when you spend money on something and you're in it and you're just like sitting back and you're embracing the experience. It does kind of change your expectation and like posturing towards something. And so I feel like there was definitely that. I definitely think that expectations were against me because I thought that I had low expectations with Blade Runner 2049, this guy's previous movie, right? Or maybe he'd made something before this. I can't remember.
No, that was his last one.
His last movie. So a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I felt like that movie was better than the original Blade Runner. I was like blown away. I couldn't believe it. Like everything about that movie, the character development, like the themes, that to me felt like a world I was immersed in. But it also I was sucked into it, even though the main character may or may not be even like human.
Yeah.
And then like sort of the, going back and finding like his dad. Anyway, it's not about Blade Runner, but I was so into that. So my expectations just went for
Through the
Dune.
roof,
I was like, this is gonna be so good. This guy cannot make a bad movie. And that's the thing, is all the things about like the craft of filmmaking. I was like, yeah, this is clearly like technically amazing. But for me, like why I watch movies is usually more for character, mood, and theme. Those are the things that I feel like, and dialogue fits in with character for me. Like that's like to me the most important things, and all the other visual flashiness, like that. If that's there, it just elevates it. But you have to have the foundational stuff, and I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't have throughout the whole movie. I was kind of like, I'm really struggling to see depth with
and connect with any of these characters. Yeah,
I just felt like they didn't have any depth, and like they weren't written like to explore. They were written to be pawns in a beautiful, picturesque thing that was inarguably well done, like visually and I do think the themes were there for sure, like the strong themes, or at least starting to develop. But yeah, and by the time it was like 3/4 mark, again, this happened with, I'm watching it with Ben, and I turn and there's a one scene where it's like a flash forward or something that Timothée Chalamet's character's having, and he like randomly opens his helmet and he's like fighting, and I got major Power Ranger vibes, and I like turned to him and I'm like, go Power Rangers. And as soon as I did that, it was all over. We just cracked up laughing, and then we just started like actually talking about like all the things we were holding inside the whole movie. We were like, what about this? Yeah, and what about this thing? And we were just like, and we were out of it like at that point as soon as I did that. So I probably wouldn't have done that in theaters. I would have stayed with it and then maybe seen if I was like, but I think I was just, I was just detached from it. I just didn't, to the point where now I'm like trying to remember all the different points that I had and all the different questions that I had, and I like can't even remember most of the movie.
I will agree with what you're saying, Jamin, the like world. I did when the movie ended. I do feel like this anticipation of like, I feel like we're going to see more of the world that was built, and like this empire, these different almost like clans and stuff. We got like hints of that. I got a little bit more information like from my friend to explain a little bit more what was going on with like the spice like trade and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, I do have this feeling of anticipation of like they're entering, he's like leaving, he's going into the unknown. We're going to see more of like this world and stuff. It's almost like, it pretty much ended. This movie ended at the end of Act 1, I think, of the whole story, pretty much. Like he's had
Act 1 of 3 or of 2?
Of 3. In terms of story structure, I don't know how many films they're going to do, but it's pretty much gotten to the end of like, okay, we have the ordinary world. Everything's sort of gone into chaos. Yeah. And he's fleeing, and now he's like in the special world. Yeah. He's now beginning on the quest, and that last scene where where they met up with the Fremen and he had that like duel and stuff. That's like this sort of turning moment where he's like, okay, I'm embarking on this thing. So I do agree with what Mike was saying when we talked when it came out about that. It feels like it's not like its own.
Yeah, I mean,
stands alone,
it'd be interesting to see it as like a series instead of a film, you know, and like what would that feel like in terms of depth of character, you know, like is it just a lack of time spent with the characters in intimate moments that was needed to develop them, or are they actually weak characters even from, you know, as far back as the book is written, you know? I think that none of us having read the books,
the characters pulled you in though, enough that it was you. I
mean,
like
I was definitely
response.
interested. And I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought about Paul or Timothée Chalamet's character specifically was I didn't feel like I had a good sense of how he saw himself like in relation to like this destiny that's over him. Like you don't get a sense of is he like ambivalent, is he conflicted, is he like fearful of it. Like there's this whole thing with his mother and the sort of like order that she's in that are trying to produce like this chosen one, and you get the sense. I kind of liked his mother's character in a lot of ways. She was interesting to me because she was like this interesting mix, but I just like he almost had like he had this tough guy sort of like persona and like face on the whole time. I was like, I don't feel like I know how he feels about this destiny that's like being placed on him, hanging over him, or what he really. I didn't feel like I knew what he wanted or what he was going after until like, you know, you get a sense towards the end of he's like I got to take up my father's mantle. I gotta. You get this real resolve from him, but I didn't feel like I necessarily knew where that resolve came from.
Which scene did he have that resolve? I'm trying to remember because I don't even.
Yeah, when they're.
Was it underneath the tent?
When they're in the tent with his mom. Yeah,
that's what it felt like the turning moment for me in terms of his character, like deciding something.
Yeah, because wasn't there something that he
was in a dream.
How does he find out? Like, how does he know his father died? There's
I can't remember.
I think it might be something that happens in the tent.
Didn't it?
He had a vision.
I thought it was in the helicopter when they were flying, and then they said.
No, it was because he's in the tent and he tells his mother, like he has like this weird flashback, or he sees something, but you don't visually, like the camera doesn't like visually tell you what he's seeing. He's just like being weird in the tent with his mom. And then he just like
he's like
being weird.
He's like, well, it's like insinuated that he's tripping.
Yes,
because
isn't it
like the spice is like hallucinogen?
Spice triggers
but
something.
It keeps showing him like engrossed in it, and I'm like, this guy is like probably tripping like out of his mind.
There's some sort of connection between that, the spices and like the hallucinogenics of that, and I think maybe with his like abilities and his ability to see into the future.
Connected.
It's somehow connected.
But he tells his mom in the tent, he's like, father's dead, and then they both like cry about it. So that's like when they both find out.
That was the only scene that I can remember that had like emotional depth to it that I understood.
Yes.
I was like, oh, okay, like
that, or the one where he's talking, Leo, right? King Leo is talking to Jessica, his wife, and he's like, "Well,
she's his concubine. She's not his wife."
What do you mean?
He says to her, "I should have married Paul's mother."
Yeah.
She's not his wife. At some point he says, "I should have married you." Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
She's his concubine that he's very much in love with, but like I think it has something to do with the clans or like
status
thing that he can't marry her really because
political.
Well, whatever. They're together.
Yeah.
They're partners.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So
partner.
They're partners.
Hey, partner.
They're partners. So when they're in the room together, they have like this moment because he's like, as Paul's mother, like, will you, not even as, he says, not even as Paul's mother, but as whoever she is, that he calls her a name, whoever you are.
Because of her
status.
Her witch,
powers,
her witch status or
yeah,
something.
Yeah.
He's like, not as just
as a witch. Will you
as a witch. So we'll just fill in the blank. So like, not as Paul's mother, but as the witch. Will you protect Paul with your life? And she goes, of course I will. And so I really liked that.
And then she lets some witch have her way with him. He has no idea what's about to happen.
What?
What are you talking about?
When he's like got his put his.
Oh, that was before though.
That was before she was supposed to protect him?
Yeah.
Yes.
But also that's like she has. I understood all that because it's like it was underneath her obligation, her belief and like following of this order and stuff,
and they're like trying to find this guy and whatever.
And it was kind of beyond her power.
It's an interesting like development that her order that she's involved with is also like they basically were the ones that like let the whatever the clan is, I forget the names, I can't remember all the names.
Yeah, me neither.
But
they have a lot of sway with the emperor.
Yeah, but they were the ones that like let the like destruction of the city happen.
Well, it was not necessarily because it was.
They just told them, they're like, don't kill the mother.
Yeah, they weren't the ones who like ordered it.
Right, but they allowed it.
They allowed it, and they're like they're in cahoots with the emperor, and the emperor had this whole plan to pretty much because he was afraid of the what is the clan that Paul and all of them are part of. They're getting afraid of them because they're getting too powerful, and so they let
Atreides? That's his
last
name.
name. Yeah,
yes.
Atreides is getting too powerful.
House of Atreides.
And the emperor
House
I think
Atreides
was getting challenged, and then House, what was it?
Duncan, Idaho.
Okay, that definitely took me out of it.
This is the thing.
Paul didn't take it out?
Some of the names of
Paul
things. There was a lot of it where visually and like, the director is taking it to this like elevated state. But then they're just like, yeah, we need spice. And let's get.
That's cool.
I know it's all in the book, but it's the book. I think has never. I don't think the guy who wrote the book ever thought it was gonna like have an actual visionary filmmaker like take it to this level of seriousness because you have to take it serious.
It's a pretty serious book.
It might be a serious book, but it's still like, isn't it like it's a kind of like a 70s like. Hard sci-fi. Yeah. But you'll get away with kind of like silly terminology in a book like that. But after years of watching movies and seeing like different sci-fi movies, this was like before Star Wars or anything.
At least they didn't call it unobtainium.
The Fremen, like. There's just so many things where you're just like, bro.
Yeah, like Atreides.
Free man? Like, come on.
Atreides sounds dope.
House of Atreides sounds so dope.
Yeah.
You have the Fremen. That's sick.
Yeah.
Leto,
the Fremen
right?
just sounds like you're saying Freeman really fast.
No,
it's like the free man.
I can get behind that. And then you have like the King Leto. And then you have freaking Jessica. And then you have Paul.
Duncan, Idaho. I couldn't.
What? Even Duncan, I can get behind, but when they call him by his full name, like Duncan,
Idaho, all that the greatest warrior.
Idaho potato.
I was trying to give it the time of day. Like I was still like, okay, the spice, silly. Like these people's names.
I don't think the spice
funny.
Is silly.
The spice when they're super serious, they're like, we need the spice. Like you're not stopping yourself from like giggling a little bit.
No, but it's
like
kind of
silly.
Like people used to like there was. There used to be a thing called like the spice trade, like in real history and stuff. So I thought it was just like
it definitely to me like all of the silliness felt almost like callbacks to history, like real history. It felt like it was more based on like archetypes of old rather than trying to like pull from nowhere. It like usual in sci-fi, like Star Trek and Star Wars. It's just like. Let's just make stuff up.
Sure,
but this felt like it even says that at the beginning. It's like thousands of years in the future or something like that. So I was like, okay, there's still like the history that we have lived through, and us right now, like that is the foundation for this. So anything that feels familiar to us would be history to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
do.
so that made sense. It's like,
Eventually, we're gonna make dragonfly ships.
yeah.
Those were actually
Tell
so
me that's
cool.
not going to
Yeah.
exist.
That was actually so cool. Those dragonfly helicopters.
I feel like I don't understand the motivation of having a giant bug flap 4 wing things.
Wow. You
Because
sound like
you can
someone
have-
who's never seen a helicopter before.
Yeah, what?
That's the thing, is like we already have technology that seems like it works better than that. And so it just watching something
Well,
like
how
that,
do
it's like,
you
yeah, it's
know? It
creative,
doesn't
but it's
exist
so
yet.
like
It
silly.
kind of like leans in different ways. It does different
Yeah,
stuff
and
than a
maybe it
helicopter.
can dive in a specific, like literally it like closes its wing flaps.
And it can become a
and
submarine.
it-
Didn't you know
and
that?
it freaking, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And
No,
it-
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
wait, I thought it did. I thought it went underwater.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I
then
just
never
made
mind.
that up.
Never
no,
mind.
they
I thought
crash
you
in
were
the
being
sand.
for real.
They crash
The-
in the sand.
Oh, okay.
I also,
Never mind.
if we're talking about different technology and stuff, the suits thing was like cool in some ways, but I kind of had a hard time understanding. I was like, okay, it's like when they're
Oh, the
first,
shields.
the body shield thing. Yeah.
The shields that they have, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
That don't.
when they had that first scene where he's fighting
It works, though.
Josh Brolin, I was like, oh, this is cool. They can spar without and like go full out sparring without worrying about killing each other. And I thought that's all it was for. And then like they're wearing on the battlefield. I was like, oh, like okay, so this
Right.
stops,
I did think that too, yeah.
this stops like blades and stuff, so it's like armor, but you can go through it. I
it
just-
stops like
if you
really
go
weak
slowly-
people, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, what is this?
You'd think that they would have like come up with like a more intense version of it or
Yeah.
something if you're gonna. But
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
kind
I
of-
can like
It's like
real
a magnet
arm-
field, though. It's like you can force your
Yeah,
through a magnet.
at first it was like, yeah, they had some scene whereas like if you go through it really slowly, then you can go. But then they were just like regular fighting, and it seemed like guys were dying.
yeah,
without doing the slow technique.
yeah. When they showed like some bird's eye shots of like everyone just kind of
Yeah,
going at
that
each
was
other, and it's just like and like everyone's dead. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I liked a lot of those scenes where it's like where that scene where Josh Brolin like takes all those men out and like they're like still in their pajamas and stuff, and they're like just ready to go. They're like going out to face these dudes. That was
yeah.
pretty epic. I love those
I
kinds of like battle
I think I
scenes.
was checked out by then. I think that I wanted to get behind like Paul's arc like really badly, and I think that they did a good job setting him up initially, where you think, oh, he's still learning, he's not like fully developed as like a fighter, or even using this like voice or like whatever abilities he has. They sort of set that up early on, and I felt like there's another chapter that's like almost missing of him like still developing, still like
Honestly, probably.
having like a
cut it out.
relationship with his family. Like you get more like development with him and his parents, but it sort of just jumps into plot right then, and then from then on in the plot, he's basically just like able to do everything that's like in front of him, and it's like it looks like sort of hard but not really, and then it just kind of keeps building, and the plot just keeps going. And I think that's probably a major reason why I felt detached, is because I was like, okay, you set up this thing where you're like, this guy is struggling, but then he just immediately gets it, and once it really counts, when it's like you sort of set it up that he was really not mastered yet or not experienced enough to really like handle real life situations
Yes,
and real life
I
conflict. He couldn't even fight his like the Josh Brolin's character. Like Josh Brolin was pointing out, like you would have died several times.
Yes, and then all of a sudden he fights this dude and kills him.
Yeah. That,
which
that
dude?
scene, the Fremen
You
guy
mean
at the
the
end.
at the very
Yeah.
end?
And
The
they're
duel.
like, oh yeah, he's like the best fighter out of our group.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
threw
but
me
you-
off a
That doesn't
little
make
bit.
sense.
Well,
because he
even-
dreamed it.
Even
already.
before that,
He knows every move.
that's the end of the movie.
Really?
I'll give him that one, even though I was thinking the same thing. But like, even throughout the rest of it, there was just a lot of things where you're like, I just feel like he's not really like, I'm not getting that he's struggling in any way
Yes.
with like learning or like showing that he fails, but then he learns from his mistake, and then he get and but he's sort of the main character, and that's the thing is there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of main characters. Like with Lord of the Rings, there's so many characters, there's so many like people jumping around, but you're at least like knowing the main objective is get the ring to the thing. Like you're like Frodo's kind of the main guy.
I didn't necessarily feel that way. I felt like we were pretty much just following Paul's story the whole way through.
Well, that's the thing is like that's I think what they're going for, but you don't have a clear objective that like Paul is growing or changing, and his objective is this clearly.
Yeah.
Maybe it is there.
I think part of the
I missed it.
weirdness of it is that because this is a story that's drawn out between 2 or 3 movies,
but that's why it's important to set up in the first movie. It's like more important than ever to like set up that objective.
Wait, what I'm saying is you don't know like what the journey is going to be yet until this great catastrophe happens, and this huge catastrophe doesn't happen until like second, third of the whole first movie. So that's when the objective is established, the journey is started, and so it's almost like it's waiting all like majority or maybe like 60-70% of the movie to get to that point, whereas like in a story that's all told within one movie is like that would happen the first like 30% or something of the movie.
Yeah,
I guess, but what is his objective then at that point?
At that point, it's to reestablish the to like kind of befriend the Fremen and reestablish the Atreides, avenge his father.
Well, and ultimately,
It is.
I'm pretty sure in the books he challenges the Emperor. He's like, he wants to take over.
Yeah,
So that's what it's
with
leading
this
up
special connection to the Fremen, I think.
And
I didn't get any of that. Like I felt like it was just
It's-
like
it's
my
a-
dad died and then I fought this guy and now I'm going to hang out the Fremen.
It's all the visions that he sees of this girl, he's like, he has this fast.
All visions.
I agree. It was like
That was
they could have done with
so
like
redundant.
2 or 3 of those visions. There were like a lot of them, but it hammered home the point to me. I was
The
like, okay, he
same
has this
sword on
connection
the
to
ground.
Fremen, this girl, and I didn't.
Like if I have to see that dagger on the ground one more time,
Literally, it's just like because Zendaya's character is not like involved hardly at all in the first movie. They're like, we need Zendaya. She's gonna sell tickets. Like, we need to get as many
she's in
visions
the marketing.
of her as
Why
we
gotta
can.
be in there?
why is
She's
she
gotta be
such
there.
a
Show her eyes, her blue eyes.
Is she in some Disney Channel thing or something? Like what's
She
the big deal
was.
with her? Is that
What do you
why
mean?
She's in
What's the
Spider-Man.
big deal with Zendaya?
I legitimately don't know. I don't think I've seen her in anything else.
She was in Shake It Up Chicago on Disney Channel,
Okay.
and then she had
And
a
that
show.
was really popular, I guess.
Yeah, that was really popular. It was about these two
Okay.
girls, 2 young girls that were on a dance show.
Because I kept reading.
that was the show.
Because I was reading online incessantly after I watched this, because I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear all the people ripping it to shreds. And then I'm like looking at YouTube and everyone's like, it was the greatest thing ever because the visuals were. I was like, what, dude? And then I found Chris D'Elia and he talks about it and he was like. He's talking about how he turned to his girlfriend. He's like, you like it? She's like, yeah, it's amazing, like the world and everything. He's like, but what about the story though? And like I was like, yes, thank you. There's one other person.
Yeah.
Like
Of course, you like Chris D'Elia.
yeah, of course.
And of course, he has the same opinion as you. It's so
Basically, I was like looking. I was like, oh,
So
what is
funny.
this?
Yeah.
What does
That's
this
really funny.
YouTuber think about it? What does
That's
this
incredible.
YouTuber? What does this person think? What does Ben Shapiro think? Even like everyone was reviewing it.
What
and-
did Ben
and
Shapiro
everyone
say?
was
Dune's
Yeah, what did Ben
Everyone
Shapiro-
loves it. Everyone
Ben
loves it.
Shapiro
Dune is
said
the greatest
that he
film
loved
ever
it.
made.
Everyone likes it. And I was reading something.
The thing about
And the thing
Dune
about Dune
is it was made really well.
The progressives
And
want to tell you that
He always somehow brings it to politics for no reason.
and when
if they had a free market selling the spice, then we won't have these problems.
Yeah, that's basically what he said.
I really want to hear
all right, so
Jordan Peterson's analysis of the story.
he'd probably have a good analysis.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot that is under the surface that with a Without paying close attention and without having the knowledge, a little bit of knowledge from the book, it can feel like it falls flat. And I think that what I'm hearing from you guys is that it felt like it fell flat. To me, I felt like there was a lot of nuance that was under the surface and was kind of difficult to pick up on. And I think that one of the things I'm just so fascinated by how you guys interpreted Paul's character, because I didn't get any of that stuff from him. Like when I was watching it, I felt like when he has the scene where he puts his hand in the death box and he doesn't die, to me I was like, all right, that's showing that he's like, it's early on and he's powerful. Like he's got some strength and he's dealing with some sort of higher power that's giving him this, this power. And so there's something and then he's got these visions. And so to me, I was like, his character is trying to understand, why am I getting visions? What is this leading me to? And what am I supposed to make of all of this? Like, how do I respond? And the first half of it is him not sure what to do. Yeah. And so it can appear like apathy because he's like taking it all in. And
I didn't think it was apathy. Like, well, first of all, the death box thing, was that thing like something he had to survive that would have killed him if he wasn't powerful enough? Or is it just like,
I can't remember.
I thought it was just that he has to endure the pain. Like that there was no real danger, but it's like just to...
But if he
pulled his hand out,
he would die.
Because he...
I think it was just a test that he would have failed.
Yeah, okay.
They would have been like, you're not the one.
Because I wasn't sure. I was like, is his life in danger? Or
don't they put a needle next to his neck or something?
Yes, they do.
Oh.
Yeah. So like they're implying that you pull your hand out, you get this in your neck.
Oh, that's
true.
Yes.
So it is kind of life or death. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, I don't know. So I felt like I was picking up on this like questions, and I feel like that's how a kid would respond. I mean, in the books he's 15 or 16. Mm-hmm. So I mean, Timothy is obviously older than that, but it's this kid who's trying to like accept all of these changes and he's trying to live up to this name. And it's like, I know that you said earlier in another conversation that you didn't like the scene of his dad and him on the cliff. But to me, that definitely like resonated. I was like, that's how, that's what I would want to hear as a teenager, for your dad to say like, yes, you have a lot to live up to, but you'll always be my son and I'll always be proud of you. Like that resonates, and that's something that I naturally struggle with or want to hear and so I think that there was like scenes like that definitely made me feel like, okay, this is a realistic kid who's like in dealing with like power dynamics and trying to live up to expectations and like, who am I going to be? And it definitely wasn't getting to the end of like, yeah, I'm gonna be this person, and he becomes it. The end of the movie was pretty much him being like, I'm wanting to be someone who lives up to these expectations, and I'm going to like do my best and become this great person. Yeah,
I definitely felt that questioning part of him, that he's like searching, that he's quite like, why am I having these visions? What do they mean? I was following that, and also got, like you were saying, got the sense like he has a lot of potential. He has a lot of power. He doesn't know how to harness it. He doesn't even know what it means yet. That was all really cool, and I was following with that. I didn't necessarily felt like I knew I knew he was searching, but I didn't know what he wanted. Whether he wanted to.
But sometimes you go through that in life, like you don't know what you want, and then you get to a point where you're like, actually what I want is this. And I thought that's like, what's the problem? I don't think that we have to look at movies and say that the character always needs to know what they want. Like sometimes characters don't know what they want, and they have to figure it out. But if they get to a point where they do figure out what they want, I think that's...
Yeah, I just thought like sometimes his reactions felt a little inconsistent to like...
Yeah.
Where, like I said, he the performance, he was very much like putting on this tough guy face a lot of times.
Yeah.
He's always Timothy Chalamet. He's always like talking like this. And I was like, I felt like I had a hard time like breaking through that layer. I'm like, okay, is he being this tough guy who like wants to really, own this and like figure out these powers and do it, or is he like afraid? So I just it felt like sometimes he was totally like, what's happening? Like, why am I here? What am I doing? And then other times he felt like
Just very stoic.
And
Yeah.
it was hard to
Yeah.
know what the stoic meant, like in different contexts.
In scenes with his parents, I couldn't tell if he was really wanting to even make them proud. Like I couldn't tell in a lot of dynamic if it was between them, if he was sort of like more of like, I think a classic teenager would be like, I don't really care. Like, just let me do my thing. I don't really care what you think. So I was like, is that kind of the angle they're going for? Or are they going more for like, you have a lot to live up to? And he's like, oh yeah, okay. Like I couldn't, or he was like, yeah, no, I really want to, like, show me how. I didn't know. And so like the whole time it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily need to know what he wants, but I was unclear, and maybe it's there, and like if I watched it again I'd be like, okay, maybe I understand this, but like I was struggling to understand like what is motivating him. Is it that like, oh, I have a lot to live up to, and if so, why? Is it just because it's like family name type thing? Is it just like you want to adopt responsibility, but why do you want to? Like I couldn't like gather that. And he's doing things, and he's like not great at it, then he's really good at it, and I'm like, are you? I don't know. And then it seemed like it was almost setting up this like, this aspect I liked is almost this sort of like Messiah complex thing, which feels very, intentional. The theme feels very like timeless, and like he's like this Christ figure, and I'm like, oh, is it gonna be like he doesn't want to accept it, like Neo or whatever in the Matrix? And then it's sort of like the big reveal. And I guess like it was revealed that he is, but it was
to me,
sort
I
of
think
left open, I guess.
It's interesting because like it does depend on the second movie.
The
and
Shai,
it's like,
but the Shai Hulud like should have eaten him, the giant worm thing,
Right.
like that.
At what point?
Why the really kind of like iconic, epic looking, okay, the worm thing comes out and like stops at him. To me, that was like the indication of like somehow the worm thing knows that he's like more powerful than him, or he doesn't want to eat him because he's important. I have no idea. I don't know if that was even meant to make sense. That's what I got about from that.
Wasn't there a Fremen that was there that like did like
they got distracted.
He did the thumper thing.
They got distracted by a thumper that was in the distance.
I mean, it stopped. That's what made it move
But
on. But there was
feel like there
solid
was that
moment of
insinuation.
like, I'm gonna eat you, and then it's like, no, I'm not, and it's like this sort of epic standoff, and you're
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
Yes.
And I took that as like, I don't know, for some reason. It's not going to eat Jesus, right?
I think that's like
I don't know.
I think that was like a setup for the next one. I think a lot of this stuff is a setup for the next movie. So
I will watch the next one.
I feel bad being like, I didn't enjoy it, because I know it's really just like a huge epilogue for the second one.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
But will it live up to
prologue?
I hope
this
so.
does happen in movies like this. It's very, very difficult to
it is a
create
prologue.
something that's inherently like epic, and like the visuals are there and it's convincing and you're like getting sucked into the world. But then there's also like really amazing dialogue, and the characters have enough time to like develop and like be with each other. And striking that balance is like almost never happens. And I think that's why Lord of the Rings gets brought up all the time, is like it has the best of both worlds, where you have moments of just like sitting at a table talking and it's still super compelling because of the characters are so interesting and compelling, and the dialogue feels like real and also like adapted for the world,
and it moves the story forward pretty well.
Yeah. And in this,
I think it was a little long.
I felt like, I don't know if this is just the way the book is written. If I could just pinpoint every single line they were saying was very intentional. Like, this is because this is going to come back later in the movie that we're talking. This is the reason we're talking about this. Like the interaction with Duncan. It's like, they had to set up some sort of like connection, and then because he like sacrifices himself later, you know, like there's all, and usually setup and payoff is just like classic screenwriting in general, but I felt like because there's so much that happens, it's like a 2.5 hour movie, and they have to set up so much, they have to get so much going that it's just like, okay, we have to establish that we have an emotional connection. All right, let's go. It's like there's I don't know if I was just in like dissect mode when I watched it, because sometimes I just get in that mode where I'm thinking, I'm not just like resting in the experience. I'm like, why did they say that? Oh, because of you know, like you're watching it like and sometimes it's nice when your brain can just shut off into you know, just sit back and just enjoy it, right? And like, but for me, because I was like, wait, but this guy is why does he want to do? Like, I wanted to just sit back and enjoy it, but like every part of me was like, why? What is this guy's deal? Like,
I kind of, well, going to what you're saying about, or kind of Paul's character and like what he wants and all that, I kind of wish that he had like a peer, another peer like character that he was
like
kind of processing
or something.
Confided in, process things with,
like
a friend
the comedic best friend
that was like on the same level, because it's just like him and then a bunch of adults, and like
that's a good point.
Like if there was just one character, just one or two like little scenes where he's like, I don't want to take over the Atreides throne, like I just want to have fun, or like, you know, I want to go.
So funny.
I want to go move to this planet where things are cool, or I don't know, just something like that, where like you got a sense of like,
doesn't he kind of do that with Duncan though? A little bit, but like not. But Duncan like is kind of above him, and he's like, I liked his character in some ways, like because he's just like that cool like older brother who's like, oh, I want to be like you, and like you're spending time with the Fremen, oh, they're so cool. Tell me more about them. I like that aspect. I mean, I'm a sucker for like a dude like sacrifices his life to kill a bunch of other dudes, like to save someone, like Boromir. Like every time I watch Boromir's death scene, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just fall apart. And so anything that's like resembles that at all, I'm like, oh man, he's Boromir. Like he takes like a sword out of his chest and he like kills more people. I'm like, that's great. That's great.
So I enjoyed that. But yeah, I felt like we needed like one more character that was like his peer, that he was almost like confiding in a little bit.
Like, if only Zendaya was there and you could talk to her.
If only
and then
she was
they
there,
could sell
not
more
just
tickets for Zendaya. but all these little things, like comments that I have about his character, I felt like they're not like big change. I'm not like, oh, they needed to scrap this and this and this. It's like little, like just bringing more, communicating some of those nuances like a little bit better with like subtle things, so like a couple lines and like one look, you know, like very small.
I would have liked a good solid extra 20 minutes of like character like
really
establishing the relationship with his parents, establishing like the dynamic, because the whole movie and the whole story hinges on you better care. And if they set stuff up and you just don't for some reason, the rest of it just starts to feel like, what are they?
Well, the most interesting
shooting stuff, I guess. Okay.
The most interesting character to me was the king, Leto.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar
Jared
Isaac.
Leto.
Jared Leto. They did a great job with his character, because you could really,
me too.
you could really feel the weight of what he was trying to accomplish. Like he was trying to gather the spice, but like in
but
that
also lead
scene,
his people well, and take care, be a good ruler, and make sure everyone's
He had a lot of
provided
morality.
for.
But he's the blind king who can't see the catastrophe that's coming. And that's what Jordan Peterson would say.
Is that an archetype?
Like, it's this like the symbol of like tradition. Tradition is like strong and you need structure and stuff, but it's also blind, and it doesn't foresee change and things that are coming. And then there's the chaos that ensues, but you have to embrace the chaos in a sense, but which Paul is kind of doing, but you can't live in chaos. You have to restore order, but it has to be a new order that has learned from the chaos, and you can't be blind.
Well, that's what Oscar Isaac is trying to do, is trying to restore new order. And there's all this, like, he literally goes into this situation that's just like completely torn apart, and he knows this. And he has like this this conviction that he is going to save all these people and he is going to, you know, do it right. And, you know, when they're collecting that spice and all those men are going to die, they're like, he's like, just friggin' drop the load.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about the spice. I care about the people.
He's Mufasa.
Yes, he is Mufasa.
Yeah.
He is Mufasa.
Yeah.
He's a good character.
It definitely got elements of Hamlet in this story.
Yes.
And also, I love that scene where Javier Bardem's character comes to visit him. And he like spits, and, like everyone's about to start fighting.
Oh,
He's like,
yes.
thank you for blessing us like with the gift of your body's moisture.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
good.
Good.
I did like Javier Bardem, but I just think he's good in anything. I felt like a lot of it was not the greatest script, but like the actors are so good that you're like, oh,
It was
okay,
great
like they
cast.
did well with what they were given, and like even if
Yes.
it's a few lines, like they're
I will.
strong.
I think that I did notice, even in the first watch, that it felt like it was definitely a struggle to not info dump throughout. And I mean, even
It's
right
so
from the
much.
beginning, like Zendaya's giving it's like a voiceover.
Yeah.
She's like,
That felt necessary though. That was like
it was necessary, but it was also a bit of a red flag. It's like, whoa, you're starting this off with like,
a lot of information.
info
Well,
dump.
In
And-
an info dumping voiceover in the beginning is one thing, but it's like when all the characters are just pawns to get exposition out, that's when I lose. That's when it loses.
And I felt
didn't
it
feel like
in
there was
the-
excessive.
You know, the helicopter tour around the, like that scene that you were talking about where,
Yeah, the dragonfly helicopters.
yeah, they go to see the spice machine and it's like this little tour. They like get to have it all explained to them. It's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, let's go on this tour so the
Yeah.
audience
You
knows
look-
how
look to
this
your-
works.
If you look to
you
your
know?
left, you'll see.
I feel like there's slightly different rules in sci-fi where it's like this is a totally new world. And there's party that's like, oh, what's this cool tool, the toy that they're using? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta have a little bit of explanation.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess Star Wars doesn't really have that very much. Well, you have scenes where Obi-Wan's like explaining the Force and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So you need to have some of that to explain the world and everything
Right.
that's going on.
Right. And I don't think it was like terribly done. Obviously, I liked the movie a lot. So,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it again if I see the second one. The other thing that was really, because I was struggling with like the main characters' motives and everything, I also was sort of like I wasn't fully feeling the threat. Like there's some good scenes of like, the
this is
villains.
something else I wanted to talk about.
I didn't feel the threat from like the Arcanons or whatever they're
Harkonnen.
called. The Harkonnens. I didn't
Hawken.
I just kind of was like, well, whatever. Like there was that one scene with like where they're kind of like, you know, they almost have them like
sacrificing those dudes.
Have you ever seen Rick and
No.
Morty where they have like the like mountain of Mortys that are being like tortured
Yeah.
to like power machines?
Yeah.
It's like it's basically like that. It's like, you know, they have the people and then they have like the little like
Their blood.
yeah, and like that scene minus like the didgeridoo was like
Oh.
the only thing that I was like, okay,
I thought that
they're
was
actually
cool.
doing something intense and like violent, but they're a lot of the rest of it I felt like just either happened off screen or I just didn't
That
get,
wasn't
like, the
actually
threat.
that wasn't actually the Harkonnen.
that was like the guys that they
Empire
were using
army.
as like
emissaries, kind of.
basically as battle pawns or whatever.
Yeah.
They seemed like more threatening, and like the rest of the time, like the main guy, I just thought he was like kind of funny. Like he didn't really do anything. And Oscar Isaac is like he's supposed to be one of like the main guys, and when they kill him, it's just sort of like you don't really get to. He gets killed by like a bug thing, and then he like sprays the tooth thing at that. Like there's just so much about it where I'm
Yeah.
like, what is like what? And like you don't. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to like get pulled into this when a lot of it is either happening on screen or the stuff that you're showing is like a tooth that you bite and then you spray stuff out like that to me like didn't
Really, you didn't? I feel
I
like that
thought
kind of
that-
thing is in a
that
lot
was
of
a
like
net-
spy movies.
Really,
and
you never.
stuff.
that was it. Really you didn't
never-
like
you
you didn't
never
like the tooth thing?
Really, you
It's
didn't like
like-
the tooth thing?
It's
didn't like the tooth?
It's like the
What,
cyanide
you've never bitten
pill
on
that you
poison in your mouth and then
bite
blown
in.
it into a bunch of
I again
This guy.
couldn't take it seriously and laughed at that part.
Smell
'cause
my
I
breath.
was like, because he's like dying. He's like, It's just like so much of it. I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't take it seriously.
You were out of
wanted
it
to.
from the beginning. You were doomed to fail.
I think
Dune to fail.
what did it. I don't know
Hey.
the moment. I don't know the moment that I got checked out. There was a few scenes
It
in
was
the
a cliff.
beginning. There was a few scenes in the beginning, like with the cemetery scene with his dad, where I was like, ugh. And there was just a few things where I was like, I don't know about this, but I kept trying. I kept like to get into it, and then the floating scene.
Try harder, Mike.
And I wanted to like it. I really wanted to like it, but I don't know.
All right,
Sicario and Prisoners is way better. I didn't really like Arrival either all that much. I got to rewatch Arrival.
You liked it when you watched it.
What do you mean? Did I talk to you about it?
Yeah, we watched it together.
No, we didn't.
Well, we were at the same theater. You went with some friends, and we watched. I sat beside you guys.
No, I liked Arrival up until the end. I remember just not being stoked on the ending. But I need to watch Arrival again. But
All right, this
at
is
least
not
those
Dune.
movies, I don't know. It just feels like there's clear things that you're sort of rooting for in the story that's like keeping you engaged, and like I don't know. I didn't get that at this, but
the only you said you didn't feel like you felt the threat.
yeah.
I-
I mean, a story like this to me is only as good as its like villains,
Right,
Like,
which I thought was really an interesting approach because they never show the emperor. You don't even you hear about him, and I thought that was really fascinating because it really is a callback to like Star Wars, where you don't get to see him in the first movie. You don't even know who he is.
Right.
Even
Oh, that's a good point.
But Darth
Yeah.
Vader is such a good villain, and it just builds it up. It makes it
Right.
Because
Yeah, the Harkonnen guy was like. Darth
he's like the
Vader.
Darth.
Darth
He's like
Vader.
he's like the Vader guy.
Yeah.
but he's not his father, so that's why it's not. As good.
Or is he?
Well, in the first Star Wars, they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They didn't have that plot point yet. But yeah,
Is-
I mean that guy was fun. It was like I don't know what it was.
On a scale of best to worst, actually. Well, what are your favorite Denny movies? What would be the scale?
Prisoners is definitely my favorite. Prisoners, then maybe Enemy.
Enemy is my least favorite of his.
Wait, is Prisoners the one where
Incendies is high though.
he thinks that someone kidnapped his
Yeah,
child or
Yeah.
something?
yeah.
And
Paul
they actually didn't?
Paul
Hugh
Dano.
Jackman.
Well, it's
Oh.
no. I mean,
We spoil a lot of things
I know
out
it's
here.
Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
and Paul Dano and
Yes.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Jake
I'm
Gyllenhaal.
about to rewatch it.
Prisoners is awesome.
That is a very good movie.
Enemy, Sicario, but no, Blade Runner is my favorite. Then Prisoners.
2049 or the original one?
No. For Denny, I don't even know how to say his last name.
Villeneuve.
I thought it was Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
He super talented guy.
That's the Arrival soundtrack, by the way.
Blade Runner 2049 is the best.
Oh,
Then Prisoners.
one
and then the
thing
rest.
we didn't address. You talked about the didgeridoo. How about those space bagpipes?
Oh, that actually made me angry. Like I actually was like,
loved it.
come
I
on!
loved
Like,
it
as
too.
I loved it.
as soon as I
much.
came on
can't
screen, I'm like,
remember
I
that.
am
this
a
is not Scotland.
I am a
Space bag.
sucker for some bagpipes. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you
Space,
guys-
space bagpipes.
You should have known when they had
Space
their guy
pipes.
named Duncan.
Seriously.
It's like, oh, bagpipes incoming.
Wait, that's in what?
But it was
That's in
so
Dune?
like
yeah.
And
this is
Dune?
where they
When they
first
get-
arrive on
Remember.
the planet, and then the king's coming out.
Oh,
Or the
yes, yes.
I mean,
it was like
even
this
the
very
sound,
ominous.
even the
bagpipe.
soundtrack being like borderline Prince of Egypt was getting me a little like
God.
disappointed.
They
Well,
have
it's
it in the
nowhere. It's
original,
nowhere
though.
near as good as
That's
Prince of
the
Egypt's
original.
soundtrack, but
No, it's not. It's not.
but I like the bagpipes.
The bagpipes were in the original movie too.
Really?
Yeah, they're in there. Look at
Look
that.
at.
I can't wait. I can't wait to watch
We'll
the
put a
David
picture
Lynch
of that
one
up.
because I know it's gonna be bad, but I probably will.
Yeah.
I watched a
I've
bunch of
seen-
YouTube videos
Yeah,
about it. I was
yeah.
like, oh god, I'm so glad I didn't watch
Yeah,
it.
I can't wait to watch it.
The floating guy character. He looks so. so ridiculous and silly. He's just like he's like a balloon kind of floating.
He kind of reminded me.
I
if
mean,
you guys
he
have
looks
played
ridiculous
Left 4
and
Dead,
silly in
Yeah.
this one too.
Not
though.
as much as the.
No,
David
he
Lynch
does
one.
not.
It's
You're literally blind.
dude, forced, like ominous things that are forcibly ominous that like are they're trying so hard, but what they have to work with is a guy who's fat who floats is not gonna ever be like cool because you can't make that like cool.
It wasn't cool.
Just showing it, just like.
I was just very.
It was
genuinely, I was
ominous, dude.
genuinely
It was
scared of him. I was
legitimately
like,
ominous.
He was scary.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to be
Oh
squished
my-
under
You
his
know
belly.
what? You know what I also thought of?
it looked
'Cause-
like he like eats
I
children.
didn't want him to
That's
sit on
why
me.
He was
Yeah,
scary
if
to
they had
me.
showed a
Of him
scene of
just,
him
like,
eating children,
eating
there's
children.
something.
Yeah.
Then
Do you want him to do that?
Yes,
God.
I want villains to be like. I want to know like what I'm working with here.
Well,
like,
you definitely get that he's like just a psychopath who like thinks nothing of killing people.
I didn't really get
and
that though.
Yeah, he totally betrays
He
that
kind of just
guy
seemed like a
who was their
depressed
inside
lump.
man who betrayed Atreides. He's like he made a promise. Is like, okay, free my wife now. He's like, no. And
I
he
will
kills-
unite you to your wife now
Yeah.
in the
And
afterlife.
That means
Yeah.
he
He
killed her.
didn't keep his promise. What a
Oh.
bad guy. Like obviously
He
he's not gonna.
No, but that's a
He
certain
killed
type
a woman
of
off
bad
screen.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Should have
certain
killed
type.
it.
Like
Should have killed her on
there's
screen.
there's certain
Okay.
bad people who are still
Mike
like
scares
good
me
to their word and
sometimes.
their honor, and then there's like
Why?
people who don't even stick to their word. Or like I don't.
I
think
know,
it's an
I know.
aspect.
But it's like it's one of those things where you're like, obviously this guy wasn't gonna like keep his promise. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to say when you're like watching a movie. You're just like, I watch this film. I'm done. Oh, you're like,
Yeah,
you're
while
living,
you're
you're
eating
interacting.
popcorn.
Put yourself in the like dude's shoes. Who's like just had his wife.
you wouldn't
killed.
make a deal with that guy if you're in
I
that
know.
guy's
Mike's like, I want to see him eat babies. I wanna
No, it's
see him
not.
throw
No,
up
I
It's
just
not
blood.
scary enough.
I just didn't feel any sense of like threat, and I also didn't feel any sense of like
yeah, but if
like
you
motivation
if you
from Paul.
were just sitting in your little theater seat and he was towering over you,
Maybe it's
You'd
a
be
theater
scared.
experience. Maybe
But
that
if
was
that was your wife that he did that to, you would be pretty scared.
I'm just picturing like
I would
Mike,
bite a tooth thing so hard
In front of him.
for revenge. It's just such a lame way to get revenge. It's just like wasn't satisfying. Not
He's trying to kill
satisfying.
him.
Oh,
That was the
it's
only
so
way he
satisfying.
could.
Honestly, I thought it was satisfying.
you did
Yes,
think it was
like
that-
we literally
oh
have
my
opposite
gosh.
opinions on every aspect of this movie.
It's so funny. That's literally my whole summary. It's not satisfying.
You know, one thing I did think of when we saw Skarsgård, his like him playing that character, it made me think of Parts of the Caribbean where he plays Will Turner.
Part of the crew, part of the
I
ship.
just I kept hearing it.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
like if he just
That's
like
a great character.
if he like floated,
my God.
like floated like to the wall and just like kind of like sunk into it.
crew, part of the ship.
I love that. That was a good character.
Yeah,
He
he's
was-
Bootstrap Bill.
yeah, Bootstrap Bill.
Yeah, he's what's his face dad.
Will-
right?
yeah.
Will Turner.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
That-
right. Well, that's
Now that everyone likes it a little bit more because I've convinced you, and I like it a little bit less because you ruined it for me.
We've all shifted a little.
I
little
mean
bit.
overall
No, except for Mike. He
it's
already
a
knows
it's
everything.
a technical achievement. It's definitely that.
Yeah, that's only worth 5 stars. Right?
No, it's not
Tell-
5
hey,
stars.
You
5
said,
out of 10.
You said 5. Yeah.
Jamin,
5
tell you what.
Out of 10.
What?
I'm
If we're gonna
bump it
do
up to
10
an 8.
stars,
No, you're not.
I'll bump it up to an 8.
You would
so
do
that's
that for me?
7.8. Yeah,
Wow.
for you. Yeah,
That's
it's an 8.
so
Okay.
nice.
yeah.
I'll take it. And I'm bringing it down to an 8.9.
Oh my god. Well, I don't know. Leave us angry comments.
Yeah.
tell us what you thought of
I-
Dune in
if
the
you-
comments.
If
you
you
love
agree
it?
with me, then
Subscribe. Because everyone loves this movie.
and if you don't agree with me, leave a dislike. We won't be able to know who disliked or not because we can't count dislikes anymore. on
oh, you
YouTube.
can't
Oh,
count them.
yeah,
They still
yeah.
exist. You just can't count them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it, percentage?
No, it doesn't show anything.
So you can
It-
still
all it
dislike
shows-
something?
You
Then what's
saw-
the
you
point?
just
What's
see
the
that a
point of
certain
It's
number of
completely
people
pointless.
dislike.
Wait, can you only see your like number?
Yeah.
Oh.
So this many people like it, but you can't see how many people dislike it. So
No,
how
but
do
you can see how many people dislike it on your own channel.
Oh.
So
Well, it's buried deep in the.
it's just so personal.
yeah, you have to
you have
like,
to
dig
really
for
look
it.
for it. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have
Anyways.
dislike buttons on like Instagram.
Oh my god.
Remember when people were trying to get
that's
dislike buttons on
so
Facebook and then they added all the reactions?
Yeah, all the smileys and everything.
They're like, we're not going to give you dislikes, but we could give you a laughing face.
We'll give you a hand that's lifting up some sort of imaginary sparkle.
Oh my! Imagine if you had dislikes on
I'm
an
kidding.
Instagram.
I know it would be brutal.
No, but
That would be so bad.
It's like,
Oh.
oh, I have 25 likes and then I have 58
yeah, because
dislikes.
that's like people post
Okay.
like model photos of themselves and like food and whatever.
Well, enough people already leave
Imagine
like
the
really
ratio on
enough people leave really
famous
mean
people.
comments that you don't really need dislikes. Like people
Yeah.
already are like pretty rude, you know,
yeah.
on social media. They're
Well,
just
and,
like,
like,
I'm gonna see
psychopaths and-
no repercussions from this, so ugly.
Yeah, that's true. That is
It's
true.
like, would you look this person in the face and just say ugly?
Ugly.
I know. Sometimes they're like really, really.
I
brutal.
love
Yeah.
looking at like famous people who post like personal things and then read in the comments.
It's so.
It's
Well,
so brutal. People
depends.
are so
It
mean.
People
totally
are like,
depends.
people
Well-
are like, kill yourself. Like,
I know.
Well,
it's like,
Mike.
jeez, relax.
whoa.
Well, Mike.
Here's a
What?
question for you. If Denis Villeneuve was on this podcast right now,
I would
would
say
you
it's a
some of these
technical
things?
achievement.
You'd
and
say
I-
that to his face?
Of course.
You're ugly.
Good.
You'd,
No,
you'd
I
tell
would
him he's
probably-
ugly to his
No,
face.
I would, no.
Mike Malabo has
no,
said
I
that
would,
he will.
I would like. I'm a big fan, so I would probably not talk about Dune. I would
Yeah.
probably
Or,
only
uh,
talk
what
about
if
he
David Lynch?
asked
Blade
you-
Runner.
What if David Lynch came on here and the only thing you talked with him about was Dune?
I would be so mad because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Like I keep. So in that scene in Mulholland Drive, no.
Honestly, it would be
Yeah.
really
No, but like
interesting.
Mulholland Drive.
Shush.
Sorry.
It would be really interesting to ask Denny about those questions that you have about the character development and if it was limitations that he felt or not on set. Because it, you know, like what's the challenge of adapting this massive long novel to the screen? What were the types? I'm sure he would be like, yeah, all those critiques that you have, I wish I could have done better.
I don't know if he would say
Maybe.
that.
He would really care
He's got to
about.
stand behind his work.
Oh yeah, he would be like, you're an idiot. You didn't get it.
You didn't read the
see 'cause you're
subtext.
stupid.
Yeah.
When people are talking, were you just listening or were you paying attention to the subtext?
Were you watching their eyes
Yeah.
or were you reading their lips? Or
I
were
don't know.
you-
Did you stare deeply?
Were you
into
cross-eyed?
Zendaya's
I
eyes?
think if I read the book, maybe I'd have more insight. But the movie should stand on its own, besides the book. And for you, it did because you didn't read the book. So
That's for sure.
I don't know.
You know what? I gotta say, I'm not that big of a fan of Zendaya's acting. Whenever I see her in something, I'm just like, there's Zendaya. I don't see her like as the character that she's playing.
Mm.
Okay.
Well, I
Just-
did
I don't know if
think it
that's a
was
hot take.
funny. I didn't necessarily think her performance was bad, but I did think it was sort of funny that she was like making fun of Paul for being like young, and you're like,
Yeah.
yo, you look 12.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they're the same exact age too.
Yeah.
In real life.
is
They're the
it that
same.
was a
Yeah.
funny thing where I'm like, I don't know if the cast is weird here or if she's supposed to just be like insecure, like or in denial of her own age or something. Because like with that line, I was like, I feel like this character wouldn't say that to this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because you guys are both clearly children.
I've seen that though in kids. Like there will be.
You're like a little kid. And it's like six.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like 6 months. Apart.
I've seen that like happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That is true.
Like
This is true.
That's just true.
But I can't.
we're like teenagers and like one
Yeah.
is literally 6 months older. They'll rub it in the other person's face
Yeah.
for like years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you wouldn't say to like a 15-year-old, "Oh, you look too young," or like you look young. But if you're like 16, you say to a 15-year-old, "Oh, you're so little."
I guess.
You're so little.
I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we've wrapped. I think we've figured it out. We've dissected and decoded.
I appreciate you guys.
Till
Don't
the
like.
cows go.
Sorry you like a bad movie.
Sorry, you have a little pea brain that can't comprehend.
don't have a
nuance
heart.
for you.